My mom was told that if I lived, I wouldn't walk, I wouldn't talk, and basically I would not amount to anything. But one of the things that I was never taught how to do was process my emotions of being different. As I got older, I realized there were a lot of emotions there that I just didn't know were there. But people can do better. People can find out what they don't know and grow.
Hello, and welcome to the Epic Kate Show podcast. I'm really happy to welcome Will Harrison to my channel. It's such an important story to be told. Ableism in the church, spiritual bypassing, deconstructing, and so Will has an incredibly rare condition, and the things that he has to say about sympathy and empathy and about how he was treated and how he was expected to relate to his condition is just so valuable. So I know you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. Thank you for being here. And I want to encourage you to like this video, share it with someone that you think would resonate with it, and just please help us continue to grow this community of people who want to learn and grow in compassion and making the world a better place. Okay, let's jump in. Hello, Will. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the Epic Kate Show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yay. Oh man, there's just so much to talk about your life and about your experiences. So before we jump into that, I'd love to hear you briefly share. Does the words reclaiming trauma resonate with you? And what does it speak to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm I'm a therapist as well, so when I hear the word trauma, often we hear trauma as being, what happened to you. So when I hear the phrase reclaiming trauma, I think of it as the idea of kind of taking back what happened to you, meaning that you're able to control the outcome. And I think when we look at trauma, we see that yeah, there's a lot of people who had a lot of hard stuff happen. Um, but we can heal, and that takes a lot of work, a lot of time. Sometimes it's a lifetime that we can heal from that trauma.
Yeah. Um so you've had your fair share of trauma in your life. Uh let's see. You said that your biological dad left when you were just a little kid, and you had a stepdad, and you were bullied and had many surgeries. So, what kind of toll did all those things take on you?
Yeah, so I have a rare condition that's called Moebius Syndrome, and a lot of people have never heard of it. They may never hear of it because what Moebius does is that when the baby is in utero, the thickest cranial nerves in the face do not develop. And so for me, what that means, I can't make any facial expressions. I can't move my eyes from side to side. I have hearing loss. The biggest thing that people first notice is that one, it's like I have a flat face, like my expressions don't change, and often they'll notice that I have a speech issue. So certain letters are hard to pronounce, like B is in boy, B is in pineapple, B is in violin. So that's definitely a challenge there. Um, so yeah, growing up, my dad left at 3. And of course, being as little as I was, that didn't really affect me until I was a lot older. My mom was there, and I stepped down when I was about 9 or 10. And my stepdad had his own issues, and so it was a very traumatic couple of years living with him because he just wasn't able to be the dad I needed, and often that resulted in verbal abuse because he struggled a lot with alcoholism. And I've had probably about 20 surgeries in my 41 years. And to speak to the bullying, yeah, the bullying is something that I would say I didn't really notice a lot about my differences until I was probably in middle school because I grew up in a really small community in South Carolina, a loving, supportive community. And so I didn't realize I was that different in a lot of ways until I was older when I started middle school and I realized, yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a lot different than most people.
Mm. And then you was going to church and being in the church culture like something that was always there in your whole life?
Yeah, so growing up, you know, I was in church probably 9 months before I was born.
Sorry,
We
how
were there.
much?
So I was there's a running joke that says I was in church nine months before I was born. So from the moment I was conceived, I was always in church. So um, yeah, we were in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. The doors are open. We were always there. Rarely ever do we ever miss.
Hmm. And what was your first memory of just not fitting in at church? And you, when we talked earlier, you talked about a specific situation where you just had a surgery.
Yeah, so um, I'm trying to remember that example. I would say the first memory. You know, one of the hardest surgeries I had was jaw surgery when I was a teen, and um, I really didn't realize how significant the surgery was going into it. I woke up my face was a base it was supposed to space a baseball, and it was just huge. I couldn't talk, and I'm like, what is going on? And so that surgery took probably 6 weeks to recover from, and I remember. I think I remember going back to church and people were like, "Yeah, praying for you, you get better." And I'm just thinking, I'm hurting, this is painful. And so I think that's when things kind of started to shift for me because what I needed was empathy, and I feel like what I got was sympathy.
So how would you kind of differentiate empathy and sympathy?
I think sympathy. So I do sympathy as oh, I'm sorry you're going through that. I'm sorry for your loss. And really, that's tragic. Empathy is being able to sit with someone in the moment and be present. Empathy is the ability to show up and shut up. It's the
Mhm.
ability just to be present. And I think a lot of times what we need from people is empathy, but what we get is sympathy.
And you really can feel the difference because sympathy can really kind of feel like, what's the right word? Like you're being spoken down to, like to a little child or something.
Yeah, I remember another example, a clear example is that is when we had our first daughter was born and she was in the NICU and a friend called and I know that this friend meant well, but they said something like God won't give you know that you can handle. And I
Oh,
and I just and I and I
that
and I
is
just
just, I hate
oh
that so much. Sorry to jump in on
oh
your story, but God won't give you more than you can handle. Oh, just
it's an absolute lie, and so here I am. I remember that I walk. It was a day that I came home, and Christina, our oldest daughter, was still in the NICU, and this friend calls, because my wife was still at the hospital, and I just remember sitting on the steps thinking, what are you talking about? Like my daughter is in the NICU. She's not home. I'm home bawling my eyes out, and all you can tell me is that God's not going to do anything. I'm telling you right now, I can't handle this. So, you know, and that was an example of sympathy. It would have been different if this friend would have said, "Hey, you know what? What do you need from me right now? What do you need? What do you need from me today?" That's a lot different. But it shows that I understand your pain. I understand what you're going through. And I think a lot of times again, people need love, but what happens is we because we don't know what to say, we say too much.
mm, absolutely. So something that happened to you, did this happen a lot that people were like, thank God for being different. This is your testimony. And when did you start to kind of push back against that mentality?
Honestly, I don't think I started to push back until a couple of years ago. I think for a long time I got into the narrative that, um, I'm an inspiration to people, or the idea that God's giving me the story to tell. Now, it's not that I don't believe that to an extent. I do believe that God does create. However, the problem with that is when you say this is not a story, this is not testimony, you're overriding every emotion that person has. And you're saying, whatever you feel, just praise God, just glorify God. And I'm like, but you don't get it. Like, this is hard. And um, when I was a teen, I used to speak a lot, and speak a lot in churches. Now, again, I think these people meant well. But one of the things that I was never taught how to do was process my emotions of being different. As I got older, I realized there were a lot of emotions there that I just didn't know were there. Um, it just showed up a lot when I started wanting to date. And, there's no girls wanting to date me. And it's like, well, who am I supposed to talk to? Because I don't know anyone else that has this condition. So, yeah, I think we tend to over spiritualize a lot of things, and we tend to. I'm trying to find the right word. There's a word that people use it. Oh, what is it? Um, it's not gaslighting. Um, I'll think of
Kind
it.
of like
But
a kind of like a spiritual bypassing.
that's it. Yes, that's it. That's the word I was trying to come up with. Spiritual bypassing. That word, and that word is a relatively new word. But that word explains so much of how I felt growing up, and I didn't realize that to probably not early to the 30s. Have language to put with those words
Mm.
and
It's so
feelings.
powerful. Like that's the awesome thing about the counseling work you're doing. Like it gives people a vocabulary to know what's going on inside. And do you remember a situation that made you like push back against the thank God for your disability narrative?
I don't know if there was an exact situation. For a long time, I didn't push back against anyone. But I would probably say in the last 4 or 5 years, when as I started to develop more of this framework for what disability really is, how disability really affects us, um, and how we people tend to think of I like to think of it that people tend to think of people with disabilities as inspirational, and we call it inspirational porn, because we're just trying to live our life like they're trying to live their life. And sometimes that means we have to face no challenges, but um I, I will give you an example. When I started grad school for social work, people said, "I don't know how you do it." Well, you just do it. I mean, you you. There comes a point in life when you figure out, all right, this is what I want to do. How do I get there? And I had a supportive wife who was really behind me in doing that, so made that possible. But I think as I started to understand the disability narrative, it really helped me understand and push back a little bit. That I don't want to be anyone's inspiration. Now, and I don't say that to be mean or cruel. Like, I don't want you to put me on a pedestal. That's not my goal. Like, I'm just trying to live my life and love people. That's my goal. To live my life and love people.
So like I know exactly what you mean. I don't know how you could do it. I also had twin babies that were in the NICU, and if somebody had said, "I don't know how you do it," like what am I supposed to do? Just abandon them at the hospital? Like in any hard situation, what are you supposed to do? Just lay down and die, or actually do
Yeah.
something?
Okay, I'll give you a better example of what happened to us. Even So my middle son just had eye surgery, minor eye surgery this last Monday, and he's doing great. But um, we had to be to the hospital early, so I came home and I took a nap. And I woke up, and when I woke up, all the memories of his past procedures and everything just came flooding back in my mind, and we didn't have a lot of support during those years, and so I know people saying, "I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it," and I'm like, "Oh, again, this is my child. I'm gonna do what I have to do." And it often it meant, we would drive 2.5 hours to an appointment. It often meant we wouldn't sleep that well at night. It often meant that on our vacation time wouldn't be used for vacation time, but it was used for appointments. So you do what you have to do, but it doesn't mean that you're not exhausted. It doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It doesn't mean that no, some days are just hard.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear like more about your condition. You said how rare is it, and it what are some of the specific kind of surgeries you've had? And yeah.
Yeah, so the statistics are kind of all across the map. I believe it affects one in every 500,000, but I would dare say that it's probably a lot higher number than that because it's so rare. And if people are listening and watching this, I want you to just close your eyes and imagine this for a second. Close your eyes and imagine that you are a 10-year-old kid. You realize that you're different, but no one in your circle deals with the things you do. Now imagine you're 15. Imagine you're 20. You're 20 and you're wanting to date. You're starting college. Again, you're not in a military condition. Now imagine you're 25. Now imagine you're 29. I was 29 years old. That was really only 11, 12 years ago where I met someone with my condition for the first time. And I bawled like a baby when I met her. Because for the first time in my life, I met someone who understood what I felt, what I feel, and how my life is on a daily basis. That's a long time to go, with
Oof.
not needing someone. And now, thanks to social media and Facebook, we're able to connect new parents right away. So, I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things about social media is that you get a message from a parent. There's some great organizations out there. I've been really fortunate to do some work with many cases of Moebius syndrome that they're really great about connecting families with other families that had kids with Moebius. And just, I was at a conference years ago, and there was a young mom, and I was in line, and we started talking, and I started to tell her, I was near her family, and I was in grad school, and you could just see her eyes just light up that there was hope for her child because what happened when I was a kid, and I think this still happens in a lot of circles, a lot of medical circles, is that 'cause a lot of doctors still don't know what Mobius is. This child is born, no one knows nothing about the condition, and so this child is given a grim prognosis. My mom was told that if I lived, I wouldn't walk, I wouldn't talk, and basically I would not amount to anything. Um, and so, I beat those odds, but at the same time, I had a mom that was very loving, very caring, and that just didn't give up. And so, um, you know, for any parent out there who deals with a medical and a disability, I see what you're going through. I feel your pain, I feel your struggles, and they're real. And I know there's a lot of parents out there who are hurting because what we found we had because we also had several kids with medical needs. What we found when we started having kids with disabilities is that at least in our experience, and people can be different than ours, but we found that the church does not know how to deal with anything that's not quote unquote normal. Um, and I think you see this also when people lose loved ones. People are great at showing up in the moment. They're great at being there when something happens, right like that. But a month later, crickets. And I dare say that's the people you need someone the most. When you're having those late night battles of, can I do this? Can I do this? I'm not getting enough sleep. And um, I give an example of my wife when we had our daughter. She had to go back to work 6 weeks after she was born, and it just crushed her because she was able to have enough time at home with her daughter. And so people don't. I think the easiest way to explain this is people don't know what they don't know, but people can do better. People can find out what they don't know and grow. A lot of times, people find out what they don't know, and it doesn't change anything about them. Um, for example, like when I first realized that racism is a thing, because growing up, I never understood the idea of racism in the church. Never. Well, when I found out it was a big deal, not only did I know what I didn't know before, but I had to change. I had to make a change. I could not be ignorant any longer. And I think that's how it is with disabilities. Once you know, it's because none of us with disabilities, we don't mind questions. I welcome questions. But once you know, it needs to change your framework. It needs to change your narrative. It needs to change how you do life. Because if you at that point you can't be ignorant any longer. There's just no excuse for it.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything more about how, like, physically the your condition has affected you? You mentioned problems with your hearing, and was the jaw surgery that you mentioned earlier, was that to kind of help to be able to talk better?
The jaw surgery was to help. So one of the problems I have is that I don't have full lip closure. So like even you notice I can pull my lips together. They don't naturally stay closed though. So the jaw surgery was to bring my chin forward and to help lip closure. So the surgeries I've had range from having foot surgery when I was a baby, lots of eye surgeries to try to correct my misalignment in my eyes. But they haven't worked. I've had dental surgery done in the OR. I have such a small mouth. I've had lip surgery, the jaw surgery. I've had several ear surgeries. I've hearing loss, um, definitely in my left ear, but also in my right ear. So when I'm with someone, often I'll either hold my head down or I'll turn to the side so I can hear them better. Um, in fact, my best friend and I joke about that. We'll be walking somewhere, and he would say, "And I on your good side or bad side?" Like, you're on the bad side. You know, word you said. He'll just start laughing, because he knows that I hear better out in my right ear. So, um, I think one of the common misconceptions that people have about my condition, people say things to me like, um, "Well, you're in a car accident," which I still can't figure out how they put those two together. But I've had several people ask that question, and then you educate them. Like, no, I was born with them, and then I think a lot of times people don't ask because they're afraid to ask, but once you give them that permission to ask questions, it's almost like a light bulb goes off when they're just curious, and I love that. I love the curiosity. It does not bother me at all.
It's much better to be curious than to be like,
Well, and that's happened too. I remember when I worked in retail for a couple of years, and I worked at the door often as a greeter to cover someone else's shift, and there were a couple of times when kids will say, kids are just curious. They're the most curious things there is, and I love it. Um, a child would go, "What happened to your face?" Well, it's in their eyes. It makes natural sense because my face looks different. And the mom, the parent, will just go, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." No, stop, stop, stop. That is an opportunity for you to teach your child that we're all different. Let your child ask questions. Validate those questions. Don't just take your child and run because you're afraid to ask questions. No. And that to me is more embarrassing than anything else because these adults don't know how to engage with people that are different.
Yeah. Ugh. Um, I wanted to hear you share about what your situation was after Bible college when you had an interview for a job that you were really hopeful for.
Yeah, so um, I went to Idaho College to study youth ministry, and from the time I was in high school to college, I really wanted to be a youth pastor. Really wanted to work with teens, and a lot of it was because that was kind of all I knew at the point. Not a youth pastor who was a volunteer youth pastor. Um, just loved me. He still is like a dad to me to this day. But after college, I had an interview with the organization in Atlanta, and this organization was very well known for international youth ministry. They went all over the world training youth leaders, and that thrilled me because I love other cultures. I love the idea of leadership. So I went and I interviewed, and the first interview was with I think their vice president, whatever, and that went super well. At least I thought it went well. And then I went to one of their retreats they do. They were at that point they were doing a lot of retreats at the time for new pastors. Went to that weekend retreat, and I didn't really get to spend a lot of time that weekend with the guy I'll be working with, which kind of surprised me. Um, so we never spent a lot of one-on-one time together. Which is, I think if that would have happened, I think that would have changed a lot of things. Because people will often say they can't understand me at first, but over time, I become a lot more clear to them. So after that weekend, they're like, "All right, we'll call you and let you know our decision." Um, so a couple weeks go by, I get back home and I call. And that's so I'm just calling to follow up with this position. And the vice president literally he goes to me, he goes, "Well, no, this is a ministry, a church ministry. This is someone who claims to follow and love Jesus. That's their mission, right? They say to me, "Well, we don't want to hire you because we're afraid that people cannot understand you over the phone." And I was just crushed. But again, I didn't have the framework to understand what was going on. So, and they said, "Well, we think you'll do better working in a church." And me being really eager to learn and grow, I just ran with it. So I applied for a position out in Colorado, got accepted, and went out there. And 3 months later, the internship just ended abruptly, and I never really got an answer as to why that internship ended.
So, how long
Um,
was the internship supposed to go for?
a year.
A
It was a year
year.
internship. It was a year internship where they were supposed to train me. Now, granted, I was still, I it was my first time living away from home. Um, but I think it was my first time really being working in a full time position like that. But looking back, I think what really hurt the most is that again, I wasn't understood. No one really took the time to get to understand me, and I always felt like I was being compared to the last youth intern they had, who was very much an extrovert, very driven, and who built a lot of relationships with the kids. And so, what I went out there for was to learn and was to soak up was I wanted to be a sponge that just soaked stuff up. And so after that, I moved back home to South Carolina, and um, it, I applied for a couple other jobs. They didn't go anywhere at that point, and finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done looking for a new past position because churches just don't want me. And um, I ended up working at a retirement home for about 8 years as a housekeeper, and I have a big compassionate heart for people who work in the service industry. I met a lot of great people who work hard. and the work was menial. But I struggled a lot with like, because at that point I still believed in quote unquote a calling. I felt like, well, God's called me, quote unquote, to the youth ministry. Why am I not in youth ministry? I don't really believe that anymore. I don't know if God gives us a calling per se. I think that, in my opinion, it's our life circumstances that lead us into a career. So the way I got into social work um, was when our youngest daughter was in her surgery. She ended up being in ICU for a week, and that week of that isolation kind of propelled me to to go into social work and to work with people who are hurting and
Mm.
vulnerable.
So you mentioned that your your beliefs about callings have changed. Where was it that you started to deconstruct evangelicalism and that brand of Christianity, or Christianity in general, wherever you are in your faith?
Um, I think it really started to happen for me. I think it started when I started grad school. People will say that you'll hear a lot of people say, well, um, if you don't hold on to your faith and you go to a secular school, then you'll lose your faith. I think that ideology is really wrong because I think what happens is a lot of people in evangelical spaces are given a faith, and that faith just can't grow. That faith cannot grow any more than what it is. And so what happened to me is I found out that ableism's real. I found out that racism's real. I found out that gay people are humans too. And it hurts because up until that point, I had no idea. I had no idea of of this different frame of reference of these different people that were oppressed. Because the theology that I had growing up never talked about any of those things. So I realized that the theology that I was taught up until that point had no room to understand racism or oppression or social injustice or disability or any of those things.
Mm.
And so when that happens, your house of cards crumbles. It absolutely just crumbles. And I want people to understand, because a lot of times people say, well, if you deconstruct in your faith, you really never believed it. You never really believed. I laugh at that because I don't know how I don't know how I could have believed up until that point any harder. I don't know how I could have believed I'd done anything more to be more loyal or more devoted or more consistent with my faith. Like, my faith was everything to me. It was everything. But the problem was my faith could not account for the human side of things because my faith was always used to spiritualize everything. And once I once I understood systematic injustice, racism, oppression, narcissization of the LGBTQ community, you realize that the ideology has to grow. And the ideology has grown. And to the point now where I believe that racism is 100% true. I believe that there's a lot of social injustice. Um, but I also believe that people who um, are gay are 100% worthy of God's love. And and I had met, in a lot of ways, I've met more people who had different sexual orientation than I, who love Jesus more than other people I know who are straight. So when that happens, it really does change things for you. And I think that for a lot of people who are against those things, um, You've never had a conversation with someone who is different than you. And that sounds cool. If you're white, go to an African American and just listen to their story. Go to a person with a disability and just listen to their story. Go to someone who's LGBTQ plus and just listen to their story. Not to give answers, but just to listen to their experiences. Because once you do that, it will change you, and then you'll see that this person is 120% worthy of love.
Yes. Oh, it's so important. Um, I wanted to transition over to that last thing that I'd mentioned to give you the opportunity to speak to the camera to a person out there that is watching this that has a disability, that has felt alone, that has felt pressure to just give God the glory in the midst of all of the pain and struggles,
Yeah.
and is just not able to do that anymore.
Well, the first thing I want to say is I hear you and I see you. Just my guess is that you just want to be seen and heard. And life is hard, and often we are misunderstood. There's people that won't take the time to understand you and get to know you. But I do want you to know that your life has value and meaning because you are uniquely you. And, you know that you are loved and that you know that you're worthy of love. Because I think for a lot of us with disabilities, we feel unworthy of love because we're not the norm. We are different and we know we're different. And society wasn't built for us. Um, and we, so just know that your life matters. Um, and to those of you who are listening to this and maybe you're maybe you're in the process of deconstructing and you're saying, I don't know where to start. And maybe you're saying, I feel alone. And maybe you're afraid that God's not going to love you because you don't have all your theology in the boxes that you check off. I believe that God loves you for you. No questions asked. God loves you. A lot of us were taught that God loves us if, and I believe that's a lie. I believe God loves us point blank. But know too that many people have been deconstructing and reconstructing their faith, and you will find the faith. First of all, don't in the deconstruction phase, don't feel like you have to find all the answers right away because you won't. That's the first mistake people make with anything in life is that they pretend they have all the answers. Um, allow yourself to hurt, allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to process the loss of what once was. And then as you grow and as you rebuild your faith, you will find something more beautiful than you can ever even hope to imagine. And you will see that God loves you in a way that is just absolutely beautiful and breathtaking.
Yes, thank you for that. It is just so true. Our the people can't grow within evangelicalism because doubts aren't allowed and all the spiritual bypassing, but like to be in the deconstructing phase is really scary and can make you have a lot of anger and a lot of other feelings, but once you get through those feelings, there's just this peace in the I don't know and in the doubts. And
There is.
it's like, okay, people out there, just wait for that because it's coming. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, and it's okay.
It's okay. Okay, one more thing I'd like to add too
Oh,
is
sure.
that we need to be, we as Christians need to be, I'm gonna not use that word. people who are Jesus followers need to be very careful of who they align themselves with, because I think sometimes we have this idea that there is the right political party, there's a wrong political party. And when you're in that space, you're taught that everything that is opposite is wrong. So I just challenge you to struggle with that, just to take time to cross that aisle, and and this is with anything in life. Get to know people who are different than you. Get a corner circle around you of people that don't believe like you. People that have different ideologies about you. Like, don't just surround yourself with people that are only gonna back up what you believe. Find people in your life who will love you, but also challenge you, and then you'll see growth.
It's very easy to go from one fundamentalist mindset to another.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share and just yeah, out of really difficult parts of your life and out of just a big heart full of compassion. I think it's really going to touch a lot of people. So, thank you for that. And
Well,
yeah,
thanks for having me. Yeah, it was an absolute honor.
do you have any like anything you'd like to promote, like a blog, or if you'd like people to follow you on any of your social medias or anything like that?
I don't have a lot, but I love connecting. I'm on Facebook. I'm not really on Twitter. And I'm quite a little old school in that. I'm still learning how to network with people, but that's just it. I love to have a phone conversation with you.
Oh, I can
Shoot
put
me.
your email
I'm
like in the description so people could.
yeah. Your friend, Facebook. I I would love to have a conversation with you. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And the way that I end my conversations is I give hugs.
Aw, great.
Yeah. Okay. So I will just ask you a few questions. I'm just gonna hit stop record here. So
Okay.
bye.
Bye.
So yes, if you'd like to have a conversation with Will, check the description for his contact details. And if you are still here, please just comment, "Hi Will, hi Kate," or something to just let me know that you enjoyed this. Thank you. Hugs.